Need for Speed 2017. I haven't made any videos on Need for Speed 2017 and it's coming out this year. I am so hyped. I am actually so excited. Also got a cash in on them views, boy. No, Need for Speed 2017 without a doubt will be the game I play most this year. I already know that. I've already come to an acceptance. When November time comes around, I'm not gonna have a life. You know, not like I have a life anyway, but that's besides the point. A lot of people have mixed emotions about the next Need for Speed, which I find absolutely baffling. I get it if you don't enjoy it, but like Ghost, in terms of my perspective anyway, are one of the very few developers that listen to fans through and through. So today I kind of wanted just to vent out all my Need for Speed 2017 hype and also talk about, you know, when we can start expecting to see things like gameplay, teasers and all that kind of stuff, because usually it's around the same time every single time a Need for Speed game is released. So that's kind of what we're going to do today. So when can you start seeing things? Well, in 2015 it was a few weeks before E3, so I'm going to say at the very earliest, unless anything's leaked, it's probably going to be late April or early May. Probably around there at the very earliest. I would say we'd be very lucky if we got anything in April period. I'm assuming it's probably going to come in May time, closer to E3, but around then is probably when we're going to start getting teasers. I remember in 2015 they kind of gave away like a Photoshop image, and it was basically the cover of Need for Speed 2015, but the exposure was all the way down, so it just looked like black. And then obviously when you go into Photoshop, put the exposure all the way up, you can see the cars in the background. And as well as that, they also gave us something in Morse code, and I'm pretty sure it said underground in Morse code or something across those lines. So we can start expecting to get teasers like that probably late April, early May. And I'd expect to see like a teaser trailer just before E3. At least that's what happened last time. And then obviously at E3 we're gonna get the full reveal with gameplay and all. And I don't know. I actually don't know how I'm gonna contain myself.
Coming November 3rd, this is the new Need for Speed.
Oh my god, don't tease me like that anymore.
It's very likely that we could actually see Ghost like sending people to their studios. I know last time a Need for Speed game was released in 2015, they actually sent out Car Throttle. They invited me. And they invited Theo and a few other people to go to their studios in February and actually test the game early. So it's very likely they could be doing that soon, or they are currently doing that now. But obviously, if people do get invited, they can't say because they're going to be under an NDA, which is basically like, it's basically a big contract which says you can't speak about anything, otherwise we're going to sue you. So basically, what I'm trying to say is like, it's going in full force right now. This is when they are going to be putting in that main graft. Well, I assume at least. I'm not a game developer, but I imagine, you know, leading up to E3 is a very stressful time. Even after that, like this last, like the year of release as a whole, I assume would be a very stressful time if you're a games developer. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I started watching the Need for Speed 2015 teaser trailers, the one where, you know, it's like, oh, cops. It got me excited. It just made me think of like the hype going into Need for Speed 2015 and how excited I was. I hadn't been that excited for a Need for Speed game, or any game period in years. I honestly can't think of a game I was that excited for. Like hype. It just I'm already losing the mouth word. I actually don't even know what I'm saying anymore. The more and more I think about what this next game could be, the fact it could possibly be set in Japan, the fact it's gonna have more customization, the fact it's gonna have more cars, hopefully the netcode sorted so I don't crash into everything all the time. I'm not gonna have a life when November comes around. I'm just not. I've accepted it at this point. I'm not leaving my house. I've accepted that I might as well just drop uni, because to be honest, I'm not going. Dad, if you're watching this, that was a joke. I can't explain. Need for Speed is one of those things. I'm going to explain this because a lot of you guys might be able to relate, whether it's, you know, Forza or Halo or whatever. Essentially, Need for Speed is one of those series I have been following literally since I was a little child. Other series I would say are very similar and have like a close place in my heart. I'd say Halo, definitely. Burnout and Midnight Club, like those are mainly the ones. And Trackmania as well. And Trackmania, like those, I'd say those ones are the ones I've been following since I was a little kid. And it doesn't matter how bad the series gets. I've always followed it. When I was a little kid, I only got to pick one game per year. And that was Need for Speed originally. I got Hop Shoot 2, Underground 1, Underground 2, Most Wanted, and then I missed out Carbon because reasons. And then I eventually got a PS3 the next year, on which I got Pro Street, and it kind of just carried on. And then obviously when I got my PSP, that was when I started playing Burnout games, and that's when I started playing Midnight Club games, and at the time it was just PS2 ports on the PSP. And then luckily I got Trackmania through, you know, Gypsy magic. But anyway, that's going a bit off topic. Essentially, Need for Speed was always that game I got every single year. So obviously there's going to be a bit of a childhood link there. And you know, I followed the series through thick and thin. I remember I bought every other game up until Undercover. Then I took a break from the Shift series. I didn't really play much of the Shift series, but I always kept my eye on it, and I always like, look, oh, that's Need for Speed. Like, you know, it's one of those series that I always wanted to get. Obviously, didn't have enough money back in the day because I was only a little child. But if I had the money, you best believe I would have got every Need for Speed game that released from Shift on to like Hot Pursuit. Obviously, when you're a little child, you don't have much money, and because I'm only getting one game a year, it was a bit hard to like decide which one I wanted, especially when Need for Speed games were releasing 2 in a year at some points. But then Hot Pursuit 2010 came around, and I got back into the series. Then I saw Most Wanted, and it wasn't really Most Wanted. You know, the Run came along and I managed to pick up that, and I used to borrow these Need for Speed games off friends because I couldn't afford it myself, and it got to the point where like I was going out of my way to play Need for Speed games. And it's one of those series, it doesn't matter how bad it gets, I will still buy the games and I will still follow it. Now I actually have money to spend, I will quite gladly, you know, buy a Need for Speed game, even if I was knowing it was going to be shit. That is what I did with Rivals. That's what I did with Rivals. I knew it was awful because at the point I was watching Theo and I was watching all those videos like I was broken. But like, I still bought it. Why? Because it's Need for Speed. I'm the exact same with Halo. I know Halo 5 is nowhere near as good as Halo 3. I still bought it though. Why? Because it's Halo. Truth be told, if, you know, Need for Speed 2015 wasn't announced to be this kind of underground-ish game where, you know, it's urban car culture and it's customization, Rivals probably would have been the last straw before I start buying annual Need for Speed games. And that's not even a joke. If you go back far enough, you will find videos where I say that. But it's just mad to see that we're finally getting what we want, and with 2017, 2 years development, already have assets. I actually don't know. I'm fangirling a bit, to be honest. It's going to be madness. It's going to be madness. And, you know, just like I said, seeing the series go from its high point to its low point, and now it's slowly getting back up to that high point again, it makes me feel good inside, knowing that I followed the series for so long and now it's finally getting back to where it once was. A lot of people are skeptical about the next game, which I don't really understand because Ghost are one of the most, like, fan-oriented like developers out there. Need for Speed 2015 as a game was literally fan service. That game was the biggest piece of fan service you can think of. The whole game was fan service. So I don't really understand like the mentality behind it. I get it if you don't like the physics and stuff, but even then they're still listening and they're still tweaking, so I don't know, maybe that's just me. I just needed to rant about this because, like I said, when I was watching those Need for Speed 2015 trailers, I was like really hyped and I had to get this off my chest because, like I said, I'm hyped. This is easily going to be my most played game of this year out of new releases. I had to talk about it. Anyway, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to hit the like, subscribe. If you've got any opinions on Need for Speed 2017, make sure to leave them down in the comment section down below. But that's been it from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to go ahead and hit the like, subscribe. I will see you guys in the next one. You guys have an awesome day. Safe and peace.